This is my third time to come. I get emotional thinking about it, much less being here. When Janet and I came almost 3 years ago, it was just a sobering, surreal experience. It's one thing to see photos. It's another even to go to Yad Vashem, which I've done dozens and dozens of times in Israel. But to go to Auschwitz and to realize this is not a movie set for Steven Spielberg's movie. This is not a Hollywood backlot. You will be walking in the very place where over 1 million people were murdered in cold blood for no reason other than they were in the way of a tyrannical government that wanted to destroy the voices of dissent and ultimately wanted to destroy people because they were Jewish. I want it to be a sobering day, a day that reminds you that it could happen again. When people say it should never happen again, of course it shouldn't, but it can and it will if we don't understand the lessons that we are to glean from this visit today. And that's why I want you to take it in very soberly. As you will go through, there will be certain points. Everyone has a different moment at which something will really hit you hard. I'm going to just say to you, be prepared for nothing less than a gut punch, because I don't know how else to describe the experience. And I will also tell you that when I was here in January of this year, I was here with a small delegation of Americans, Eric Cantor and Darrell Issa, Carolyn Maloney, a Democrat from New York, and we were here as part of a remarkable commemorance of the 70th anniversary of Liberation Day from Auschwitz. On that day, most all of the Israeli Knesset came here. I want you to think about the significance of that, and that's the reason I came, because I thought it was going to be such a remarkable moment of history, that the very ground on which the Jews were to be eliminated from the face of the earth became the ground at which an Israeli Jewish state gathered its elected officials and stood on the ground as if to say, God has won and evil has lost.
Amen.
Amen.
When we think of the overwhelming odds that we may seem to think we're facing in the world today, and we feel overwhelmed, I want Auschwitz to be one of those places that come back into your heart and your spirit, and that you are reminded that even as you have been literally to the valley of the shadow of death, which is where you will be today, that you will fear no evil, because God is with you, and that He is light, and light overcomes darkness. In many ways, I think after today, you can say you have been to hell. This is hell. This is where evil was personified in a way that is unimaginable. There's no other way to describe what happened here. The brutality, the impersonalization, the disregard for human life, the utter contempt with which people were held. And you will see firsthand those places, and you will be close enough to touch the very places where innocent women, children, unarmed people were marched to their murders. And I remind you that this did not happen at the hands of a fanatical group of uneducated, unsophisticated people. This happened at the hands of the most well-educated, most scientifically advanced, most theologically trained people that lived on the planet at the time. We tend to think of our own country as being the most advanced, but in the 30s, science was at its apex in Germany, as was theology. And for it to happen in that kind of culture and society ought to be a sobering reminder to us that but by the grace of God and our voices standing up and our being willing to put our lives on the line, such will happen again. So today, as we walk through these hallowed grounds, understand your feet touch sacred, sacred earth today. The very land on which over 1 million fellow human beings were murdered brutally. Let it not be lost on you that we're not here to see a tourist attraction. We're here to see the memorial to the people who died for no reason other than the utter hate and contempt that one man and those he was able to convince had for them. Let it also not be lost on you that the people who operated this murderous machine, the people who created nothing less than an industry of human killing, would come to work each day, would murder several thousand people, would leave work, would go home to their families, have dinner, put their kids to bed, and wake up the next morning and come back to this very place and murder several thousand more people. Do not let that get lost on you. How can that be? How insensitive must people become, and how can they get there? And I don't know that I have an answer to that, other than when there is no God in a person's heart and life, anything is possible. And that's why I say, this is hell.